We go to, you just knew that mother was lying to us. What? Washington.
We don't give a fuck.
In her final address as Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard says the quiet part out loud, well, not so much quiet, it was what we always knew. That Fauci was a piece of shit.
It's true.
That he was lying to us.
That is true.
That we in part funded it.
He ain't lying.
That China is over.
Oh, it's true.
And that we refuse to see it.
That is also true.
I'm Jasper Gonzo, and this is the reason why they make ropes and trees.
This mother...
But after a failed trial, of course. Of course.
It's not serving time in some federal penitentiary. It's a huge, hot, heaping pile of horse.
But it's what's next. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Jasper Gonzo, what's next? Your daily dose. Hope you guys are feeling good today on this Tuesday. And wow, this story broke before the weekend, and I was thinking about doing yesterday, but I already had one already, already baked and ready to go. But still, this is very important. Tulsi Gabbard, in her final address as Director of National Intelligence, drops, I think at one point it would have been a bombshell, but at this point of the game, in her final address, it's what we always knew. And what am I talking about? Well, the whole COOF pandemic, yes, I call it pandemic. I've been calling it pandemic for 6 years now. And of course, the wonderful magical vax that was coined by one Todd Ertzen of the Steve Deace Show. But basically, is that she tells us what we always knew, that Anthony Fauci was a piece of shit, that he lied to us, that we in part funded it. China is over. And probably the biggest is that we always knew, but we refused to see it for the lie that it was. And here we go. This comes out of Breitbart. He lied. Tulsi Gabbard releases evidence Fauci allegedly directed funding for risky coronavirus research linked to Big Pharma and the pursuit of, quote, universal vaccines. Yes, that wonderful, magical vax. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard used her last day in office to release a trove of evidence that Dr. Anthony Fauci, former director of National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, NIAID, lied to Congress and directed U.S. funding for gain-of-function research linked to Big Pharma's pursuit of universal vaccines, all while influencing and manipulating the intelligence community to cover up his role in the COOF pandemic. Gabbard, who is leaving her post to help her husband as he battles an extreme rare form of cancer, released a trove of documents on her last day office, showcasing what many have said for years, that Fauci lied, he was a piece of shit, and he covered up. The Trump administration is blowing the lid off the cover-up completely, showcasing Fauci's role in providing millions of U.S. taxpayer dollars to funding dangerous gain-of-function research in China at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, where the specific coronavirus is suspected to originate. No, it's not suspected. It's fact. That bitch came out of a damn lab. No, it did not come from bats. Gabbard said, today, on my final day as Director of National Intelligence, I am releasing never-before-seen communications and documents to expose directly how Fauci worked with politicizing career leadership in the intelligence community to suppress the truth about his actions, the virus lab leak origins, and his role in directing U.S. funding for this dangerous research that caused immeasurable harm and damage and the cost of countless lives. But let's hear it from her. So it's maybe about 5 minutes long, but we'll play it all out.
Before the COVID pandemic, Dr. Fauci, as head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, provided millions in U.S. taxpayer dollars to fund dangerous gain-of-function research on bat coronaviruses at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, work which is now widely viewed as the source of the unintentional lab leak that sparked the pandemic.
Fact.
Now, in support of President Trump's maximum transparency mandate, today, on my final day as Director of National Intelligence, I'm releasing never-before-seen communications and documents that expose exactly how Fauci worked with politicized career leadership in the intelligence community to suppress the truth about his actions, the virus's lab leak origins, and his role in directing U.S. funding for this dangerous research that caused immeasurable harm and countless lost lives. Now, these documents expose Fauci's direct role in influencing and manipulating IC assessments on COVID-19.
And no, they're not
and
empty
how
binders.
Fauci lied to Congress in 2024 When under oath, he denied knowledge of or participation in discussions with intelligence officials about viral research. We also received testimony from multiple intelligence community whistleblowers who reported retaliation for challenging the intelligence community's manipulation of intelligence on the virus's origins. Once again, revealing a clear pattern of suppressing dissent, silencing critics, and burying the truth. Dr. Fauci's close relationships with the intelligence community enabled him to assume three key roles that shield him from scrutiny. First, Dr. Fauci funded dangerous gain-of-function coronavirus research linked to Big Pharma and their pursuit of universal vaccines worth trillions of dollars. Second, Dr. Fauci was the behind-the-scenes advisor who, alongside his hand-picked so-called experts, pushed the intelligence community to endorse a natural animal origin to hide his dangerous gain-of-function research that he funded using taxpayer dollars, all of this in a deliberate attempt to cover up the truth and shift the blame and attention away from Fauci's own actions.
Truth.
Third, Dr. Fauci became the nation's pandemic pundit.
Guru,
He
if you
publicly
will.
pushed lies, disinformation, and censorship using every platform available.
And he pushed it on Trump.
Now, according to hundreds of reviewed emails, which are included in this release, the intelligence community almost always incorporated Fauci's recommendations. He promoted a fraudulent paper whose publication he helped prompt as legitimate information for intelligence community consideration. Senior analysts praised Dr. Fauci not as a policymaker, but as what they called an unbiased guide to the real coronavirus experts, while deliberately ignoring experts who might dissent from Fauci's narratives.
Remember everybody
Now, Fauci
got
didn't
canceled,
stop there.
you know,
He blatantly
because
lied
they
to
had
Congress
questions?
under oath
Gina Carano?
during his 2024 testimony to the House Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Pandemic, denying that he ever spoke to any intelligence agency about COVID. Now, the correspondence I'm releasing today directly contradicts his sworn testimony. Now, we received statements from multiple whistleblowers revealing that the intelligence analysts who dared to challenge Dr. Fauci's COVID origin conclusions faced threats of retaliation, marginalization, and many suffered career setbacks. For example, a contractor was terminated just days after coming forward to ODNI as a whistleblower. Another example, those who advocated for the lab leak hypothesis or expressed dissenting views were reminded by their managers that leadership would determine which analysts would be promoted and which would not.
They were threatened.
The message was clear.
Absolutely threatened.
Go along or be punished. Now, senior leaders also sought to undermine whistleblowers by removing anonymity, which is required in the whistleblower process, as they made their complaints, and also insisting that their managers or attorneys be present during ODNI meetings where these whistleblowers were coming forward with their testimony, obviously creating an atmosphere of intimidation. The COVID pandemic caused tremendous hardship and pain for millions of our fellow Americans and countless people around the world. Now, after years of lies and censorship and cover-ups, the American people deserve transparency, truth, and accountability. The tactics that were used to hide the truth are straight from the deep state playbook. Politicized self-serving leaders like Dr. Fauci covered up their own wrongdoing and abuses of power, manipulated intelligence, lied to Congress, and undermined a duly elected president by restricting his access to the vital facts he needed to keep the country safe.
Gee, I wonder why
It's
this was
time
all done.
you know the truth.
Wow, just wow. The fact of the matter is that I will just use myself as the example. Back in 2020, when this thing kicked off in March, actually we knew back in November of 2019, October 2019, when Tucker Carlson when he was then on Fox and when he actually had a working, competent brain, actually said the quiet part out loud. That there was something coming out of China, originating in China. We just didn't know when. Of course, we kind of knew that could possibly be a serious issue, borderline pandemic. That was October and November of 2019. Now we fast forward into March. Now this thing is kicked off. Here comes the president. Yeah, we need to shut the country down. Even though he was told multiple times by inside sources, you don't need to do this, he felt that he had to. But then again, he was only given the cards that he had to play. These are the cards that he was given, so he had to play those. And of course, who was the one in his ear? Fauci. Fauci was the one constantly in his ear going, hey, yeah, you know what? You need to shut the country down. We need, 15 days to curb the spread, to stop curbing the spread. We need to, institute masks 6 feet apart, yada, yada, yada. All that bullshit. I knew it was bullshit from the beginning. So to me, I did not take the vax when the vaccine came out of January 21. I did not do that nonsense. Those closest to me did, only took it one time, but they knew afterwards that it was a sham and that they were never going to go through that again. But how many people out there knew that this was bullshit and they were calling it bullshit? But you couldn't do that because if you went on Facebook or if you went on Instagram or if you went on Twitter, or any other social media platform, you were going to get canceled. You were going to get demonetized if you had a channel. You were going to get called threats. You were going to have your job threatened, which of course it was, by the federal government and by state governments, that if you did not take the magical vax, you were going to not have a job. Thank God my day job saw through that and said, yeah, we're not going to play that. People are going to come to work. Yeah, we're going to observe these 6 feet apart. Yeah, we're going to observe the masks and all that other bullshit, but you have your choice whether you want to take it or not to take it. So for media groups, sports teams, other entities who decided to lie to the American people. I'll give you a perfect example. Remember that Buffalo Bills player, who got hit and got knocked down on Monday Night Football? Well, it turned out that, he was having a possible, myocardiac arrest or possible stroke. Yeah, because of the vax. Now, I wonder if the NFL is actually going to come out and said, yeah, this is bullshit all along. We lied to the American fans. We knew what was going on, but of course we couldn't do it because we were threatened by the federal government as well. Or what other sports teams or what other media entities who said they were threatened by federal and state governments that if you say X, Y is going to happen. Gee, I wonder, if that's ever come to pass. Being that this story broke Friday, you had the weekend, and now we're into Tuesday, and yet I've heard crickets, silence on this whole bullshit. Fauci is a piece of shit, and he knew it all along. He was lying to us all along. Remember those one-on-ones that he had with Rand Paul? That Rand Paul called them out on the carpet, telling the American people, yeah, dude, you lied to us. You lied to us about the bullshit of the origins. You lied to us about the whole 6 feet apart. He even came out and said, yeah, that's 6 feet apart, that mask, that was all bullshit. I had to throw something out there to give the American people, some solace, to ease their minds. To make sure that, hey, you know what? We're doing everything humanly possible to make sure that we can control this pandemic, and make the American people okay, because we had to tell them something. We had to give them some sort of bullshit. But you know who was laughing all this at the end of the day? China. China was laughing their asses off. They were like, hey, yeah, you know what? Yeah, we started it. We did it. And what the f*** you going to do about it? Nothing. You're going to do nothing. 6 years later, China has yet to be called out on the carpet by the American government in their role in the pandemic. Wow. How you feel now? Those who were running up and down going, we must do these things because we have to stay safe. How many countries around the world were saying the same thing? You must do this. You must do this. Some countries were harder than others. Australia was extremely hard. Israel was extremely hard. Great Britain was extremely hard. They were all harder than we were. But then again, America is the straw that stirs the world's drink. So once we shut down the economy, the greatest economy on the planet, the world did the same. And how much better we are for it. And with that being said, I'm Jasper Gonzo. This is what's next. And like I said in my intro, this is the reason why they make ropes and trees. But after a fair trial, of course, like what you see here, please leave a comment, share, subscribe to it, hit that notification bell so you guys never miss a thing. Continue spreading the word about the show. Appreciate you guys watching as always, and we'll see you next time. Peace.